Hi, I'm Mincy Moffett. I'm a botanist with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources in our non-game conservation section, and I'm here with the Sci-Fries group.
Hey, my name's John Thrift, and I work for Southeastern Tech, and I'm also here with the Sci-Fries group.
The Ohoopee Dunes conservation area, really, we have 5 units in the conservation area, and 3 of them are owned by the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. One is owned by the Nature Conservancy, and one is owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And all 5 of those tracts together make up the Ohoopee Dunes conservation area or natural area. And it's about 3,000 acres total.
Who were the first people to colonize, to build houses and civilizations on the dunes?
Well, Native Americans were probably been there for 10,000 years. They probably used the area.
Before the area was protected, how did the people that were native there use the land?
Well, Europeans probably started exploiting that land, grazing animals and livestock, most likely. And then they harvested timber off the area and also utilized the pines for the naval stores industry. And so they collected turpentine and tar and resin from the trees that were used in the shipbuilding industry.
These things are going to go in about like this, and they're going to get covered with concrete.
So they stay.
This is telling somebody right here, this will be the first one, this is telling somebody that the trail goes here. So they'll be over there at the kiosk and they can read about it, see the map, and they can pick up a little brochure and they can follow the trail. And this arrow tells them that the trail goes this way, or if you know how some people are, they like to hike things in reverse. But what this trail is going to have is, most of the other sites are going to have a sign that looks like this, and it's meant to rust and sort of weather and look stark like the turkey oaks. But a lot of these signs are going to have a number, and the number will correspond to a number on a brochure. So you can walk around and you can it's an interpreted trail, so you can stop at station number 1 and read about what is in front of you at station number 2. Station number 1, then go to number 2, number 3, and then when you finish, you put it back for the next person.
So what are these markings on the trees?
Okay, these markings show the trail around the Ohoopee Dunes. It's about a 2-mile loop, and we're at the beginning of the trail now. And we use these red markings to show the hikers where the trail is so they won't get lost. And they're going to be on the left side of the trail all the way around the loop.
What is that?
Well, what we have here is a gopher tortoise burrow. So we have a land tortoise that occupies this type of habitat, and what they do is they dig their burrows down in the ground, and those burrows can be quite large and quite deep. But the interesting thing about a gopher tortoise is they're recognized as a keystone species. So what that means is the presence of that animal facilitates the presence of a lot of other animals. In other words, if they went away, other animals that depend on the gopher tortoise burrows would also go away. And there's over 300 species that are associated with gopher tortoise burrows. Some of them are more obligate than others. One particular animal of interest is the indigo snake. And the indigo snake basically requires gopher tortoise burrows this high up in latitude to survive, and it's an endangered species.
You know, for thousands and thousands of years, whether it was Native Americans setting fires or fires being started by lightning strikes and burning across the landscape, fires would burn for hundreds of miles and months. Nobody put them out. They burned as long as the weather conditions were right, as long as there was fuel to burn. We didn't have all the streets and roads that would stop a fire. We didn't have houses and towns. People were worried about getting burned, and we try to, you know, getting them burned down, and so folks are concerned with suppressing or putting out the fire, which we've been doing we've been putting out fires very well for the last 80 or so years. So we've had a lot of habitat changes when we exclude fire from the landscape. It gets grown up, and we don't have all these nice grasses and all these nice herbs like this little legume over here, this tephrosia or this wiregrass. I mean, there are probably 50 or 60 different species of little plants growing on the ground that are food for animals like the gopher tortoise. And if we don't have those things, then the gopher tortoise goes away. And if the gopher tortoise goes away, as John explained, the indigo snake goes away, and all the other critters, all the gopher frogs, invertebrates that are, and mammals and things that use this as refuge will disappear. So this will become a very sterile environment.
So what exactly is this pond? It doesn't really look like there's much life in it.
Oh, well, I assure you there's a lot of life here, but it's not your typical pond. This is a sandhill depressional pond. Depressional means it's a depression in the sandhills, sandhill depressional pond, and it fills up. The only source of water for this pond is rainwater. There's no communication with the groundwater. There's no stream that flows into it. The only water that's here is water that falls directly into it and just around the area and runs off into it.
That means no fish.
That's a very good point. It means no fish.
And that will kill the amphibians that live in it.
That's right. It does hold water for about 9 or 10 months of the year, most years, but it dries out usually most years. And even if it holds water, you know, for a couple of years without going dry, it's never deep enough and long enough to support fish. And so fish are bad from the standpoint of amphibians because they love to prey on little amphibian larvae and even adult amphibians. This particular pond is one of just a handful of ponds in Georgia where the rare and endangered striped newt breeds. The adults live in the sandy areas past the edge of the forest that surrounds this little pond, but they will annually or periodically they will come down to the pond, and they will mate, lay their eggs, and then they will go back up into the uplands to survive. But their larvae will have to go through some sort of development here in the waters of the pond. One of the beauties of the sphagnum moss is that it keeps an area really wet and really cool, and so plants that otherwise wouldn't be able to survive can survive in association with this. There are some species that need a constantly wet, cooler area than the surrounding environment, and so they can associate themselves with this. Right now it doesn't look like there's anything else growing here, but a lot of sphagnum areas have little herbs, little forbs, little wildflowers that grow there and only there because it's nice and moist. It's more of the collection, it's more of the rare habitat that we're after protecting here as opposed to individual species. Habitat like this is very sensitive, it's very fragile, and so you've got to take care of it. Not only do you not want to do things like ride four-wheelers, but you want to be proactive in the management of it. You want to support DNR and other groups that are going to burn this habitat when it needs to be burned, or to do the other types of habitat management projects that need to be done in this area. Protect the floodplain. We haven't even gotten to the little Ohoopee floodplain, but it is a very, very important part of the natural area. We're focusing on the dunes right now, but you go right on the other side of the dune and you got the little Ohoopee River. That's a beautiful, intact little floodplain, but it won't be if people don't take care of it. You don't have to go to another continent. You don't have to go to North Georgia. You don't have to go to Canada, to find something special. You've got something really, really special right here.